When my mother-in-law, Megan, found out that my husband was moving abroad for work, she took drastic action, evicting my daughter and me from our home. In search of comfort, I decided to take my 3-year-old daughter to the park. To my surprise, we were approached by the police, who, despite the pouring rain, asked us to come with them to the station. Confused and cold, I had no choice but to comply. At the station, I met Anna, a 33-year-old woman with a complex story of her own. She shared how she had met her husband, Larry, at work, married him, and welcomed their daughter, Catherine, into the world. Anna explained that after moving in with Larry and his mother, Megan, they had recently rented a new apartment. However, after Megan's husband passed away and her health began to decline, they decided to buy a place with an elevator for easier access. Initially, they had considered buying a house, but the apartment's accessibility was better suited to Megan's needs. Despite Larry's employer assuring them he wouldn't be relocated, he was frequently sent on business trips, leaving Anna to manage everything with a young child. At first, Megan was supportive, helping with childcare and household chores. However, that support quickly faded. She stopped helping and began to create more work for Anna, leaving dirty dishes piled up. Although Megan would apologize when confronted about the dishes, she only did so when Larry was around. This pattern made Anna suspect that Megan was intentionally complicating her life. Despite Megan's health issues and Anna's initial willingness to help, her patience was wearing thin due to Megan's manipulative tactics, like promising to pick up groceries but never following through. This ongoing struggle had created tension in their household. A friend of Anna's suggested that Megan's behavior could be considered bullying, prompting Anna to think about discussing the situation with Larry. Even though she was hesitant to add to his stress, Anna felt that open communication was essential since the issues were becoming overwhelming. I shared her concerns about involving my husband in the ongoing conflict with Megan, fearing it might lead to her being placed in a care facility, especially since she had no other family to rely on. I often found myself weighing the option of just enduring the situation until a significant event changed my perspective. One day, I planned to drop Catherine off at my parents' house for a sleepover, a treat they both cherished. During our chat, they suggested that I consider staying over occasionally, which was tempting, but I hesitated, worried about leaving Megan alone. After a brief visit, I returned to the apartment, expecting Megan to be home. However, I soon realized that I had left my keys at my parents' house. At first, I wasn't too concerned since Megan was supposed to be there. I rang the intercom, but there was no response from her room. Wondering if Megan had simply stepped out, I decided to wait outside the building. Hours passed, and as darkness settled in around 8 p.m., another resident arrived. I seized the opportunity to enter the building with them, feeling confident that Megan rarely ventured out at night. I pressed the intercom button again. I could hear the doorbell ringing inside, but still, no response came. As I lingered by the door, a faint sound from within confirmed that Megan was indeed home. Despite my repeated attempts to get her attention, she stubbornly refused to answer. Feeling utterly defeated, I decided to spend the night at a nearby motel, planning to return only when Larry was back from his business trip. When I finally got the chance to share the incident with him, explaining how Megan had locked me out, he was understandably upset on my behalf. Yet, Megan dismissed my concerns with a wave of her hand, attributing her silence to her hearing loss. "Maybe I didn't hear you. I'm getting old, you know," she said with a hidden smirk, making it clear that she was unbothered by my distress. The following day, relieved to be back inside, I quickly grabbed my keys and went to pick up Catherine from my parents' house. Still processing the implications of Megan's actions, I knew a serious conversation with Larry about our living situation was necessary. When I confided in my parents about the ongoing difficulties with Megan, they offered their unwavering support. "Remember, you're a precious daughter," they reassured me, their words bringing tears to my eyes. I quickly composed myself for Catherine's sake before heading back home. For a brief period, things settled down with Megan. However, the calm was shattered when Larry's company confirmed his permanent international transfer. After having just invested in a new home, he approached me with a serious question: "What do you think about staying in the U.S.? Can you handle living with my mom?" I hesitated, concerned about how this would affect Catherine. After some thought, I decided it was best for us to stay in the U.S. Larry soon had to leave for Europe, and despite his worries, work kept him preoccupied. Once he departed, life with Megan took a dramatic turn for the worse. Her demeanor shifted, and one particularly stormy day, she dropped a bombshell: "Now that Larry's gone, wouldn't it be better if you and Catherine moved out?" she suggested abruptly. Stunned, I asked for clarification, but she firmly insisted, "I'll take over. I can't relax with strangers in the house. Please leave right now." Her audacity was astonishing. While we weren't blood relatives, I had always tried to make our cohabitation comfortable, treating her like family. To Megan, it seemed we were nothing more than an inconvenience. With no time to waste, she urged us to leave immediately. Drenched and dressed for the day, Catherine and I found ourselves ousted into the downpour, with nowhere to go. I carried Catherine to a nearby park, hoping the shelter would provide temporary refuge from the relentless rain. Ideally, I would have checked into a motel or returned to my parents' house, but the immediacy of our eviction left me disoriented, scrambling to find a safe place for my daughter and myself. In the chaos of our sudden displacement, I realized I had left my wallet and phone inside the house. Feeling utterly helpless, I sat in the park with Catherine, desperately trying to decide our next steps as the rain continued to pour. The cold began to seep in, and despite it being summer, the chill was harsh and biting. Overcome by fatigue, I found myself drifting off to sleep, contemplating the daunting 2-hour walk to my parents' home as my only apparent option. As I pondered our predicament, 2 lights cut through the rain in the distance. Approaching closer, I saw they were police officers. One of them called out, "Are you Anna? And is this little one Catherine?" Surprised they knew our names, I weakly confirmed. The officer then requested, "Please come to the station with us." Confused and uncertain about what had transpired, I asked why we needed to go to the police station. Despite my reservations, they urged us into the patrol car, providing large towels to shield us from the cold and mentioning they had spare clothes for us at the station. Curious about how they knew where to find us, I asked, "How did you know?" They replied, "We'll explain everything once we're back at the station. For now, just try to relax." Exhausted from the events of the day, I dozed off and awoke as we arrived at the police station. To my astonishment, inside the station, I saw Megan sitting on a sofa and my uncle standing nearby. Wondering what was going on, I asked, "What are you doing here?" My uncle explained that Larry had contacted him, suspecting I might be having issues with his mother, Megan. The situation was unfolding in a way I hadn't anticipated, signaling a potential turning point in our challenging living arrangements. With Larry overseas, he had asked my uncle to keep an eye on things back home. Earlier that day, my uncle had seen us in the rain and had considered offering shelter. However, Megan's extreme behavior prompted him to contact the police instead. That explained how the officers knew where to find us. Megan, glaring at me, seemed confused about why she was there. She protested, "Why do I have to be here? I have a bad knee. If Larry were here, this wouldn't be happening." Despite her complaints, the situation escalated because of Larry's initiative in seeking help from my uncle. During discussions with the police, the possibility of legal consequences emerged, leading to suggestions that I might need to hire an attorney. Megan scoffed at the idea, dismissing it as an overreaction. "An attorney? That's ridiculous." I just locked the door. That's all. I didn't do anything else," she claimed. My uncle defended us, emphasizing the severity of Megan's actions in throwing us out into the torrential rain. He clarified a crucial detail. Contrary to Megan's belief that Larry was the house's owner, the property was actually in my name. My uncle, who ran a real estate business, had secured a great deal on a condo recommended by Larry, and the property had been put under my name, a decision I hadn't given much thought to at the time, but now I deeply appreciated. Following my uncle's advice, I decided to hire a lawyer. The legal expert informed us that evicting Megan could be challenging and suggested that placing her in a care facility might be the most viable solution. Upon hearing this, I immediately called Larry to update him on the situation. Caught off guard by the rapid escalation, Larry expressed his desire to return from New Zealand for a thorough discussion. He mentioned considering the option of placing Megan in a care facility. Meanwhile, Megan, still unaware of these discussions, casually snacked on crackers at the police station, oblivious to the fact that she might not be able to return home with us. I decided to stay with my parents while waiting for Larry to come back. With him due back in a week, I finally had some quiet time to think about our future. If Larry wasn't going to support me, pursuing a divorce seemed like the inevitable choice. I regretted not seeking advice earlier. A week passed, and upon Larry's return from his travels, I moved back home. He had a brief stint in New Zealand before he was scheduled to leave for Europe, pressing us to discuss important matters quickly. During this time, I had heard unsettling claims from my uncle about Megan's behavior. When confronted, Megan fiercely denied the accusations, asserting they were fabrications aimed at having her removed from the house. Surprisingly, Larry seemed open to hearing her side of the story, questioning if there was any proof of my allegations. "No evidence at all," Megan asserted defiantly. Larry turned to me, asking if I had any proof. Although work had kept me occupied, I managed to provide a voice recorder that I had brought with me. Puzzled, Larry played the device, and I braced myself for the fallout. The recordings revealed Megan's tirades, not only attempting to evict me but also repeatedly belittling me, calling me a worthless wife. Megan tried to dismiss her harsh words as taken out of context, but the playback continued, unveiling a barrage of verbal abuse, some instances of which hadn't even been recorded. I could see Larry's hand shaking with visible anger as he listened. Despite her guilt, Megan weakly justified her outbursts, claiming they were isolated incidents caused by frustration. Yet the continuous stream of harsh recordings spoke louder than her excuses. Larry remained silent after questioning her, his demeanor reflecting a newfound determination to protect me and our daughter, Catherine. Megan, witnessing this side of Larry for the first time, appeared shocked and at a loss for words as our discussions unfolded until Larry's impending departure back to Europe. I firmly stated that I could no longer live with Megan, especially with Catherine's well-being at stake. Larry agreed, leaning toward the possibility of placing Megan in a care facility to better manage the situation. Despite Megan's strong opposition, discussions about her future became increasingly complicated. However, prioritizing my daughter Catherine's welfare and our future led me to make the difficult decision to sell the house. "If you're not willing to move to the facility, you'll need to find somewhere else to live," I told Megan firmly. She resisted, not wanting to sell the house, but moving to Europe became essential for us, particularly to ensure that Larry could be more involved with his family. The prospect of living abroad felt daunting, but knowing that Larry would be with us made the decision easier. Catherine, who was only 3 years old, would also have the opportunity to develop her language skills in a new environment. Selling the condo, still under mortgage, emerged as the only feasible solution. Keeping the house was not an option. It was unrealistic to expect Megan, who was on a fixed income, to manage the mortgage payments. Considering her needs and future, it was clear she required assistance. Yet she staunchly refused to move into a care facility, Ultimately, we had to make the heart-wrenching decision to place her there against her wishes. I'm sorry, but I need to return to Europe. Can you handle the necessary procedures here? Larry asked before his departure. With support from friends and family, I managed to complete the required steps for Megan's transition into the facility. The staff kept me updated on her condition, which, unfortunately, was not good. It would have been one thing if she were simply unhappy, but she was also causing disturbances within the facility. Before leaving for Europe, I visited Megan to see how she was doing. However, she lashed out, upset and confused about her situation. "What's the big idea? Why have you locked me up in this place?" she exclaimed. Her frustration spilled over to the facility staff as well, as she complained about the food, the discomfort of the beds, and unpleasant interactions with other residents. When I apologized to the staff at the facility, they responded with understanding. "It's all good," one of them assured me. "We often see this kind of behavior. Just leave it to us. We'll keep you updated if anything comes up. So don't worry." Despite the harassment I had faced from Megan during our time together, I couldn't shake off my concerns as I prepared to leave for Europe. Upon arriving in Madrid, Larry greeted me warmly at the airport, and we made our way to the apartment we had rented. While it's true that rent prices in Madrid can be steep compared to Arkansas, Larry's housing allowance from his company has been a blessing, allowing us to find a spacious and affordable place. Our neighbors in the building have been incredibly friendly, going out of their way to make me feel welcome. Even though my French isn't perfect, I've been making an effort to communicate. Just yesterday, a neighbor invited me over to share some wine and cheese, and I happily reciprocated with homemade mac and cheese. Meanwhile, I've been gradually learning French alongside my daughter, Catherine. Acknowledging the limitations of self-study, I enrolled in a language school, where I've made friends with other Americans who are also new to Spain. Life in Madrid is genuinely enjoyable. Back in the States, my constant concern for Megan often overshadowed my ability to relax and enjoy outings with friends. Here in Madrid, I can savor leisurely lunches without that weight on my shoulders. The only concern I currently have is about Catherine, who is still too young for kindergarten. Typically, children here start school at the age of 6, so I hope Catherine picks up enough French by then. Thankfully, she seems to be catching on quickly. Once she starts preschool, I'm considering getting a job. Although Larry supports my decision to stay at home, living in Madrid has ignited a desire within me to explore more opportunities. Through my new friendship with a waitress at a nearby cafe, I discovered there might be job openings there. The cafe is popular among the American community, and many customers come in to learn English, creating a welcoming atmosphere. While challenges may still arise, I've noticed a significant improvement in our communication since coming to Spain. I feel more confident expressing my feelings, no matter what lies ahead. I believe we'll face it together as a family. Right now, I'm experiencing a level of happiness I've never felt before, and it feels liberating to embrace this new chapter in our lives.